to wrap up?
Cornelius Johnson.
Oh, yeah? Let's hear it. Talk to me, man. Let's jump right into it. What you got?
I mean, not much. I hate to be a guy. I just mean, like, it's hard to get excited about yet another wide receiver. So I guess this one's going to be wide receiver like 8 or whatever. But again, it's just the dude's been balling out. Apparently, he had like 2 end zone drill touchdowns, long ball, pretty much everything that Malik Willis is throwing, this dude's catching. But I think it's kind of interesting that we go into the season. We have all these expectations, predictions, and then it's guys like Nicole and Cornelius and other types that I've been hearing a lot about. It's interesting. It's fun. It's early, so I'm not getting too excited here, but it's nice to know that if we have some sort of catastrophic, injury riddled season, that we got some gems in the hopper there.
Something we haven't talked about a whole lot. We obviously have talked extensively about the wide receiver room. Will you carry 5? Will you carry 6? I know at certain portions of the season, the Packers would have 7 on their active roster, or not their active roster, but I guess technically their active roster, depending on how injuries fall into place. But we haven't talked about, are there any guys that might sneak their way onto the practice squad? And as you're talking about Cornelius Johnson, if he can carry over that momentum into training camp, that might be a dude. Let's look at it here real quick as we look at the depth chart. Romeo Doubs, if he's still on the team, right? Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, that's listed as your top 3 here according to our lads. Now, we know how that could go. Christian Watson, obviously, you're not going to break camp with him on the active. Savion Williams will make the team. Dontavion Wicks will make the team. That's 5. Then you got Malik Heath, Mecole Hardman, Bo Melton, and Cornelius Johnson, right, battling for that 6th spot. So let's say that they do keep Mecole Hardman, and then they try to sneak Malik Heath and Bo Melton onto the practice squad. Cornelius Johnson, I mean, do we carry 3 on the practice squad, Jake? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a tough get there, but I don't know, man. You try to stash all 3 of them on there, and 1 or 2 gets picked up. Maybe Cornelius Johnson is left on the practice squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, Emilio?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's just so few spots. We're only going to probably carry in 6, for lucky, and then it's going to be about who we can sneak onto the practice squad. I think it's going to be, who are you still rotating, because that bottom of the roster is always going to get churned by Goody. But I like Jacob's idea. He's all for the gems, and I love that. But I mean, and you got to show up, right? If you have an opportunity when you're on the field, and this is your one chance, you're a walk-on, you're whatever, you got signed to the minimum, you want to show up and play out. Those drops, they can't haunt you. You got to get it done, and I mean, he's doing it.
Right, and Greg Rice says Bo, teams, wide receiver, cornerback, saying that Bo would be the one because there's a little extra value there. J. Cole says don't count Hardman out.
It's tough, man.
And, I mean, it really is. Coleman, to me, now let's see if it carries over into training camp, but he is really starting to rise on my list. It's because what are we looking for in this team? You're looking for a little more experience.
Veteran leadership.
Yeah, and to me, he fits that. He kind of fits that bill. And listen, I'm not expecting him to go out there and be a number 1 or even a number 2, but you get a guy that's got really good speed. You've got a guy that can contribute on special teams. It's very, very similar to the comment there about Bo, right? Like now, is Mecole Hardman going to be a gunner? No. And that's where Bo kind of checks the box a little bit more, maybe. Again, I'm not trying to be overly negative, but when I see them moving him around the corner and stuff, I don't look at it like, and I know there's former players that disagree with me on this, but I don't look at it like, yeah, there's extra value. That's got to be the guy. I look at it like they're trying to fit him on this roster somehow, some way, and it kind of feels like they might be running out of options. Am I wrong there? Like, am I being too negative there, you think?
I don't think so. I think that's one of Ryan's biggest things that he always references, is that usually isn't a great sign. I don't think it's ever been a good sign, to be honest. Now that I think back over the last few years, usually that indicates that, again, the guy is about to either be cut, let go, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a fair statement to probably think that way.
Man, I've been back and forth on that all day, because like before, I was like, all right, he's just getting a rep, he's just trying it out, and the only saving grace is there's no pads on, right? He's just kind of backpedaling and swiveling his hips the opposite way rather than running forward and running his routes. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's going into the physical aspect of it, but I think it is kind of, it's tough to see if, you think of that, hey, we're just working him around. We're just trying to get him, reps. But I would love to keep Bo. I'd love that he had that ability as possible, but he's also the one screaming down the field, ready to blow somebody up on a kick,
Right.
which, like we've talked about, that's different than some of those other receivers. So if you're not a linebacker and you're not a corner or a safety, I saw another video. It was Alex Gibbs. It was the old one when he was talking at University of Florida, I think, breaking it down. But, you're going to want to block safeties and make the corners tackle you. Both afraid, and he's a wide receiver to go out and tackle, So that's one thing to keep in mind.
So they're doing this footwork drill. For those who listen on the pod, you can't see the video. There was a video by Rob Domofsky that was filmed at practice today showing the footwork drill, going between the orange cones for the DBs. And I'm telling you, man, I'm not trying to – I want you guys to tell me what you think. Grade these guys' footwork and tell me who you think had the best, okay? Just real quick. Just watch them here. This is – I don't even know who these are. 37, right? Pretty decent,
Fields.
right?
Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut up.
Right?
That's a little choppy.
He cheated a little bit, right? They're pretty good, right?
Jamal Williams.
Now watch this. Watch this white jersey. This is Bo. Look at his feet.
Yo, he's chopping.
Bro, I seen that and I was like, boys, he just crushed that drill. Way better than anybody else just now.
Dude, those things are quick.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Look at him compared to Nixon. Can you rewind and let Nixon? I mean, don't get me wrong.
No,
I'm not throwing hate.
Was it Nixon?
Yeah, not him. That's not him. Nixon will be number 2 or 3 here.
I didn't think I seen Nixon, Jacob. But
I thought it was 35, not 25.
Right there. 30.
That's Omar Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
okay.
stupid.
Unbelievable.
And then 38. Who's 38, boys?
Tremont Williams.
I do the same thing, but let's see here. We got numbers 38.
Gregory Jr.
Attaboy.
Got it. Good stuff. All right, so that's Gregory Jr. there, right? And then here we've got 27. Is that Home Depot?
Come on now.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just give you just a taste of it here, okay? Just a little bit here, as Coach LaFleur would say, just a tip. All right, kill it. That's enough. That's all we need. All right. And again, Bo, man, just crushed it. So I just got through saying, he's on the cut. And then you see that foot drill. I was like, damn, Bo crushed that drill. So I don't know. Does it matter? Probably not. But worth mentioning, I think. So didn't plan on leading it off with Bo, as I am as exhausted about the Bo Melton talk as everyone else. I think there was a commenter, Blake B, said, these OTAs gave me the itch for the season to get here. This is not the one. There was another one marked here. Let me find it. Here we go. Speaking of Wolverines, I know we're tired of the Bo at cornerback talk, but another blueprint for him is Maki Sainristil from the Redskins. Ooh, I said a bad word. People forget he played slot receiver in college from 19 through 21. So very, very interesting there. And then, of course, Blake B went on to say, these OTAs gave me the itch for the season to get here. Nothing to do for the next month and a half except chop it up in here and talk crap about the NFC North and the Eagles. I like that you threw the Eagles in there, Blake. Right. You got to always talk trash about people. So, and nobody takes us serious with that because obviously they got the prize last year. But now, listen, we're gonna take that downtime, and most shows are probably going to shift to a little bit of baseball talk. They'll be talking about Brewers and stuff like that, right? We're going to press into what happened last year, right? Just a quick little refresher from 2024 to get you geared up for 2025. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. Mm-hmm. Deadfish says, Packers are in a great position to trade certain players. Not that I'm looking to trade anyone, but we are deep at wide receiver, O-line, and safety. Lots of trade options. And when I see that topic get brought up, guys, I think wide receiver, first person I think of is Romeo Doubs. Mm-hmm. Right? O-line, first person I think of is Rasheed Walker, but my response is I don't want to trade him. I'd rather have him ace in the hole somehow, some way. Jordan Morgan beats him out for left tackle. And then, of course, safety room. Let's look at it real quick because I guess it did get deep pretty quick, didn't it? I mean, we've got studs at the top, and there's a little bit of depth there as well. I'm going to drop that down now as we've got at the safety position, Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney. And then you got Katano Ladapo and Zane Anderson, who just lit it up last year. Then you got Omar Brown. So maybe Deadfish is suggesting, hey, what if you try to deal Zane Anderson, I guess? Because I really don't even want to do that. I would rather have two decent backups there at the safety position. So, and we know I don't think we would trade Katano Ladapo. So Deadfish, I think the only one I would disagree with you on there would be safety. Because even O-line, who knows, Sean Ryan's last year of his contract, they may be looking to, do something with him if you really like the backups there.
The only way that I could see safety being in that option is if they designated Bullard as a straight up safety, don't want him in the slot whatsoever, and don't think he can do it. Now, you guys know was president of the Bullard fan club. Ryan cannot stand Bullard.
And then what, Jacob? Then what, Jacob? Did you give up on my man Bull or what?
No, I'm saying 100%. I don't want to trade Bullard. I'm just saying that would probably be the only logic you could justify to say we got Evan Williams, we got X, we got Zane, we got Kitano Ladapo, we have Omar Brown, who I think is a sleeper. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's what Deadfish saying. Yep. Emilio.
Thinking Bullard was still a safety. Yeah, I'm with you there. And he could play safety, right? However, he played his best football at the nickel spot last year in the slot. And this week, Nate Hobbs missed a little bit of time, but Nate was back this week, so we'll talk about that a little bit. When Nate missed, I want to say what they ended up doing. Let me think here for a second. I think they ended up putting Bull back in the nickel, in the slot, I should say, and they put Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon on the outside.
Right.
So it kind of feels like Keyshawn's slot days are completely gone, right? At least, and again, it's just mini camp. Maybe they're trying that out and they're going back and reviewing the practice tape and going, you know what, guys, now we need to make sure that Hobbs is on the outside. He's not our nickel. But it does kind of feel like they like Hobbs with how he plays aggressive, especially against the run and everything in the slot. I feel really good, Emilio, if Bullard is coming out of the bullpen and for some reason your slot gets beat up, because I thought he played good in the slot. I really did.
I still think I'm leaning towards, I'm still fine with Bullard, even if we want him starting at slot. If you're wanting Hobbs, because I think it was Mike Spofford saying this, I'm not 100%, but he was saying we got four top corners, he would say, and not in any order. You have Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs, Carrington Valentine, and Javon Bullard. But he said one of those guys two of those guys only play one position. Like Bullard's only going to play the slot, and Carrington is only going to play on the outside. So you do technically have flexibility, like you were saying. You're not sure about Nixon going back in there, but for him, even thinking that they're the top four, they're going to work around that. You're always going to have Carrington inside. You're always going to have Carrington outside, Bull inside. I think that you want to have the ability to move your corners around, rotate them, have them come up and down.
Right. And when you look at it here, let's look at his highest graded games. And he didn't finish the season strong, so I can understand where Ryan's coming from here.
Right.
But notice, let's start with his best game of the year. His best game of the year was against San Francisco, an 84.9. He was playing slot that game, right? Let's go to his second best game of the year. It was free safety in week 2, a 78.3 against Indianapolis, right? His third best game of the year was week 18, 72.6 in the slot. So 2 of his 3 really good games, he was playing in the slot.
Right.
Now, if we go to his worst game, it looks as if that would be at Detroit, graded out of 30. He was in the slot, though. So
after they just asked him to play strong safety the game before, though.
Yeah. See, that's what I don't like, is look at the fluctuation, and I think that is a killer. Trust me. Emilio, did you ever, when you played collegiately in any sport, being able to being asked to play multiple positions makes you look good in the coach's eyes, but it doesn't give you the advantage of perfecting your craft. Does that make sense?
No. Yeah, because even if he's in the DB, it could be the DB room, but what happens when they split and go corners and safeties are going to work on different things? You know what I mean? What reps are you missing there? That's where you come to the point of Bo's not getting enough reps here or there, whatever. But like if you're asking him to switch weekly, he had 4 at free safety, 3 at slot, 2 at strong, 2 at slot, 1 at strong, 1 at slot, 1 at strong, 1 at slot. Like you're telling it's kind of, you're still playing football, but he's got so many different responsibilities. Is he a third? Is he a half? Is he playing, cover 4? Is he, man lock? What are they asking him to do per game? And I love that 2 of his, 3 best games were in the last 6 weeks of the season. He got, he was getting better as it went on. And his worst game was that, that Detroit one. He only played 30 snaps too, right?
Yeah.
Total. Yeah. So, it's not great, right? But he was also a rookie, learning everything, new system and all that.
Right. Yeah, we'll see, man. Again, when you have a rookie that has, a few games here where you grade out, I mean, that 84.9, guys, that's not normal, right, for a rookie. And the big thing that I want you to key in on, if we were to really key in on the positive here,
tackling.
Notice from
tackling,
week 11
baby.
on, week 11 on, his tackle grade was 85, 81, 80, 79, 87, and then dropped back down to a 57 there in Chicago. That does not include the Philly game. Let's throw that in there real quick too. Hopefully it'll load. Yeah, so Philly. Looky there.
No.
75.6 PFF grade. That's his overall defensive grade against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that looks even better at slot, right? So and that's the thing. Like, what if they come out in training camp? And the reason I wanted to talk about this a little bit is, what if they come out in training camp and they're trying to really press Nate Hobbs into the slot, and it's him and Javon Bullard battling for the slot spot? And what if Bullard just comes out? Well, it's a second-round pick, guys, right? What if he comes out and just balls out, and they go, you know what? That's our slot. And now it comes to, Nate Hobbs is going to start on the boundary if Bullard takes the slot position. There's no two ways about that. If that happens, now it's Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Ballantyne battling for the boundary spot. I kind of feel like Keyshawn would be pissed off and maybe raise a little stink if Carrington beat him out for that spot. But I'll be honest with you, man. I would choose Carrington over Keyshawn in the boundary. I would. Right. Now, like we always say, though, Emilio, injuries are going to answer a lot of these questions for us, unfortunately. It happens every year. So.
That's a great point, because, I mean, I was going to say, how often have we questioned Keyshawn not getting that first spot? You know what I mean? How often are we saying Keyshawn's going to have it? Now we're bouncing between what's Hobbs and Carrington going to do? I think it's a great question you have to ask, is what does happen if he doesn't get there? And what I did like is, I mean, they even tried to blitz him earlier in the year too, when he had a couple rough games like Miami, LA, Arizona. We'll work him in, see if we like the pass rush. Okay, no. All right, let's put him back there. I think he progressed differently in each kind of section of the season, and then he started putting it together as he got towards the end.
Yeah, makes sense. Anything else on it, Jacob, there? Actually, read that comment for me. I'm going to try to pull something else up here on PFF real quick.
Yeah, Mr. Ron Sandville says, rough on Bullard when he practiced all week at slot corner and then got thrown in at safety with no reps. That's, I don't want to say it's unfair. This is the NFL. You got to be ready to do whatever they ask you to do at any moment in any game, but it totally isn't ideal. That's like practicing for anything, knowing that you're having a certain mission, a certain goal, and at the last second be like, hey, scrap that, go out there and play as good as you can. You'd understand why some of these grades are quite offsetting. I mean, like Emilio said, he just never seemed to have more than 2 or 3 weeks at one position until they completely kind of shake everything up for him. So I have a lot of confidence still in him, especially going into year 2. That tackling grade really does give me a lot of confidence as well, just with how willing he is to get up there. If you add that with the likes of a guy like Hobbs, and I think CV, he's not the biggest guy, but he's willing to come in there, and you throw in the safety play, we could have a really good tackling defense, man, in that secondary, which we've lacked.
And when you take a jump like we did last year to the second best run defense in the league, you got to step back and go, why did we do that? Right. Well, we talked about the pass rush extensively, how it was a controlled pass rush. You could tell they were really keyed in on the run more so than the pass and rushing the passer. But the other thing that sticks out is your slot defender, the majority of the games, was a tackling machine, tackling fuel, right? Javon Bullard played a huge role in that run defense getting better, because you're in that nickel the majority of the time, probably 70% of the time. As Bramble says, CB is solid. Again, let's look at it. When you say Keyshawn Nixon or Carrington Ballantyne on the outside, the contract would suggest Keyshawn's going to play out there. Although Keyshawn's contract isn't like $10 million per, right? Or is it like $6 million, I think, something like that? And if the goal is get the best player on the field, and obviously you don't want to have that progress stopper out there. We already talked about passer rating when targeted. Carrington torched it, right? He also gave up 0 touchdowns last year. Keyshawn gave up 5, right? Now, okay, well, let's go to the PFF grades. You go to the PFF grades, who's the top corner? Carrington Ballantyne, a 65.5. Keyshawn right behind him at a 64.1. So, and again, that's overall defensive grades. Imagine if you remove the 92.7 pass rush grade of Keyshawn, where they fired him on the nickel blitz a couple of times, right? And he hit home. Now go back and now let's look at coverage grade. Carrington Valentine's coverage grade was a 71.4 and Keyshawn's was a 60.7. So at some point, you got to acknowledge passer rating when targeted, checks the box. Staying healthy, check the box. Coverage grade, checks the box. Like everywhere you look with Carrington Valentine, there's something that goes, that might be a dude. Then I go back to the Doug Farrar tweet from a couple nights ago where he tweeted, I don't know how the Packers got this dude in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said it was larceny is the word he used.
I know if I had to be devil's advocate here, I would point out that Keyshawn Nixon had almost double the snap count that Carrington did.
Absolutely.
So I think that should at least be weighted a little bit. But
right, in the run defense, I mean, you got to be happy that he's sticking his nose in there. Maybe that's something, Carrington can work on. But like Clay was saying, how much is that 92 swinging that grade?
Yeah, and keep in mind, too, with the run defense grade, Carrington is on the outside, right? He's on the boundary, and Keyshawn was in the slot a good chunk of the season as well.
Hey,
so
I know the snaps are limited, but if you do look at the top 10 rankings here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 safeties. So I kind of understand that feeling of, wow, Dead Fish is like, we got a couple we can spare. I mean,
true.
It's impressive.
It is, man. Yeah, so if we sorted by coverage grade, if it'll let us. All right, here we go. So just coverage grade.
Wow.
Xavier McKinney, Xavier McKinney 90, okay. Edgerrin Cooper 77. Aaron Mosby, you got to throw that one out. Obviously, he's an edge defender, so 75. Zane Anderson only had 122 total defensive snaps. He has 75 coverage snaps, 75 PFF coverage grade. Carl Brooks, throw it out. Evan Williams 73. Carrington Valentine 71. Devontae Wyatt had 7 coverage snaps.
Dog.
I thought Joe Barry was the only person that dropped big defensive tackles in the coverage. That's weird. Katano Ladapo, 68. He had 45 coverage snaps and graded out of 68. Pretty impressive there. Now, Nate Hobbs last year, 61. So that does worry you a little bit. What if you do throw him out on the boundary? You might find yourself in trouble. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I'm eager to see if Greg Rossfire I'm eager to see if Nate Hobbs returns back to his rookie year form because that dude graded out in the 80s his rookie year,
right?
Correctly. So, and again, that was when Bisaccia was there as the coach. And listen, it does matter with scheme. It really does. So that's why you get some players that I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and it was breaking down. I think his name was Ndiche, if I remember correctly. Robert Ndiche or Kadiche. I can't remember how you say it. He was the number 1 prospect coming out of high school the year that he went to, I think it was Ole Miss. This dude, when they do their grading system, you guys seen me show the on-3 composite grade and all that, and it's
right.
like, anything like above 90 is excellent. You get above 95, you're like, okay, that's like, these are top of the tier. This guy's great. He broke the scale. 101 was his grade. Okay. He goes to Ole Miss, didn't get off to a fast start. Second year was even worse. Got in trouble. They said he jumped out of a window drunk or something one night. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah. Jacob said, we've all done that. Come on. So he ends up getting drafted. I think it was by the Cardinals. And then next thing you know, there was other substances involved and he got out of the league. Now he's out of football completely. I say that because you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the right people around you and you don't have that it factor, you know what I'm saying? It can really, really hinder your ability to not just get better, but also perform on the field. If that's the case with someone like Nate Hobbs, you've seen that first year balled out. And then after that, we know Las Vegas has been kind of a dumpster fire ever since, right? So maybe he comes in here with Coach Half, Jacob, and he returns back to that form. One thing's for sure, we've seen the ceiling. We've seen what he can be. We've seen the potential. Just go back and watch his rookie tape, and I'm telling you, it's phenomenal.
Was that rookie year, if I'm not mistaken, was that where he played predominantly on the boundary or the not in the slot? I for some reason, my brain is telling me that was the thing.
Let me see if it'll pull it up in a separate page.
Man, that's 5th out of 116. That is crazy.
Yeah. Let's see if it'll show us by year. Oh, it's not showing specifically where he lined up, Jacob. Although with the pass rush being 20 pass rush reps, that would probably be the slot. So it looks like he might have played the slot his rookie year. And then with only 3 pass rush reps,
Oh wait, go to see if you can't change the year on the top right there.
Yeah, I think you can.
Where's that up top?
Yeah.
2024 drop down box right above
So it'd be
coverage grade.
21, right?
Yep.
Let's see here. Yeah, so he was slot all year long in 21.
Okay.
So he graded out a 79. I thought it was an 80, but it was a 79. So I apologize for that. So yeah, his rookie year, he played slot and graded out a 79. All right. Now we go to 22. He's playing the boundary now, and he dropped to a 60.9. Okay. And then in 23, Nate Hobbs was back to the slot and he graded out 69. So, pretty good improvement from the year before.
Okay.
Again, not quite to his rookie year. And then last year, he played everywhere. He played outside, then he played the slot for 6 straight games, and he played strong safety 2 games, back to the slot, then back to strong safety. So they didn't know what the hell to do with him last year.
Well, and again, that's kind of the same thing that Bullard had. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a place to call home and ended up, being spread too thin. That gives me more excitement that he could be a really good slot then.
That kind of leads to. Did you listen to Isaiah Simmons' interview, Jacob, or no?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you listen to Simmons' interview on Packers?
The linebacker?
The presser? Yeah.
No, I did not.
Oh, he was talking about how Hafley's kind of put him in a spot that he, can excel in, right? He's been playing a little Will, little Sam, flip-flopping between the two, but instead of like the Giants asking him to go kind of, everywhere, this way, that way, wherever, Hafley's like, all right, I want you to stick at one thing that I want you to do great. And, I want to put you in the best position to succeed. I think that's just the same exact thing we got to do here with Nate Hobbs, because we're all still sitting here like, all right, is it going to be Keyshawn Hobbs who's going out there? Who's going to best succeed? Is Bullard going to play slot? That's all we need to do is just put them in their best option, give them a good shot. If it doesn't work out, then we can react.
As I was going through that, could y'all see that on the screen? You couldn't, could you?
No, but that's not.
Here's his rookie year. I apologize for that. And I won't go through the numbers for podcast purposes again, but you could kind of see the 79.1 and where he graded out. His run defense, look at that run defense right there, 91.7 against Washington. Tackle grades looking great. Yeah, it feels like he's a slot. So let's pencil him in for the slot spot. And it looks like Bullard is going to be kind of that guy in reserve, right, at the slot, and also battling for safety, although I think Evan Williams will probably beat him out. You feel a lot better about the secondary, although you did lose Jair Alexander, Right. I mean, you think about that. You just bolstered the slot position. One thing this tells me with the whole letting Jair walk and refusing to pay him that $17 million, what it tells me is they believe in Carrington Valentine. There's no two ways about it. So if you've got the coaching staff making decisions that would lead you to believe, all right, man, that's their dude. They really like him. And then you bring in Nate Hobbs to the slot, and you got Keyshawn that you feel like played better on the outside. Let's do this same experiment if I can. That may be difficult. I was going to go to Keyshawn and see how much better he played outside. Because am I wrong? Did you guys feel like Keyshawn played better outside last year?
No, I think that I would put a little bit more hope on him outside. The two-way goes for him on the inside. I just didn't love.
Okay.
Yeah. I struggle with what I think about Keyshawn Nixon, to be honest. It's not that I don't
Jacob,
like
what
him.
are you trying to say?
No, it's not that I don't like him or anything like that. It's just that he's never impressed me drastically at any position other than kick returner. And he seems to really want to pull away from that. But I just still don't quite trust his ability in the slot versus guys that we've already paid and drafted. And I kind of would potentially, I'd say root for, but I'd kind of maybe the word is root for other guys on the outside, like maybe let's say a Kalen King, a Micah Robinson, Greg Jr., somebody that can maybe surprise us, that has a little more youth, a little more quickness, speed, agility. Like Emilio was talking about, he seems to kind of maybe trip over his feet sometimes when he gets has to cover more twitchy receivers. But that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, so as soon as I click on Keyshawn's page, it won't load now. So everything was working just fine. I was like, all right, they got PFF up and running finally. No, wrong. I was going to see if we could pull up and see where he played his best football here. If you guys want to hit the chat for just saying, I'm going to try it one more time, because I think that would be very, very interesting to see how well he played.
I think the good comment from Coach Len, he says, as a whole, our DB room improved, but it still kills me we lost a playmaker and a difference maker like Ja. And I would agree with that, but the problem is
when he's there, right?
When he's there. And it's almost a 50-50 shot the last 4 or 5 years as to whether or not that guy is going to be the type of difference maker and playmaker that you expect. And I will say again, I think it was Ryan's pod. They went through like a breakdown of like every incident / injury that he's had over the last like 5 years. And there's a lot more stuff there than I remembered. And a lot of it was very troubling as far as maybe not playing when he could, playing in certain situations where they're the end of the year playoff implications or actually in playoff games, pulling up, not making those types of plays. So I would push back just a little bit on that, but I understand the mentality there, Coach.
Yeah. Here's Keyshawn's PFF grades from last year, guys. And again, we've talked about the passer rating we targeted. It was Cheeks. We talked about the 5 touchdowns he gave up. It was Cheeks, right? But let's talk specifically position-wise. He played the slot corner position weeks 1 through 4. Here were his grades: 73, 52, 62, 56. Okay. Then he bounces outside for the next what is that? 1, 2, 3, roughly 10 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Here's his grades now: 61, 64, 65, 46, 59, 45. And then against San Fran, 83, against Miami, 73, against Detroit, 76. And then he went back to the slot and tanks at 54, stayed in the slot 60. That's when Bullard got hurt, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then back outside to a 51, stayed outside to a 63. And let's see if we can get that up, what he did in the postseason there. A 57 playing outside against Philly. So it's one of those things, like he was really starting to settle in outside, was he not?
Right.
83, 73, 76. And Emilio, it's right back to the same conversation we're having about Bullard. Then they start moving him around, and it's like crap hits the fan, you know?
Yep, and he had a rough spot there. What's that run defense against Detroit? At least his number was a little better, but Bullard was a 30 there, right? So, maybe Key got his head out of the way a little bit on the outside, and Bullard to take the L, but with his number there. But you're right, he's showing up. But again, we're bouncing back and forth. I love that, Haft's putting him in the spot that's, going to help him succeed. And Key's willing to play those spots as as the team needs him. But I think he really does want to be on the outside. Like looking at his left, outside corner reps compared to his slot reps, let's keep him outside. God forbid he's our third, slot that can jump in if we need to.
Yeah, for sure. Chris Casual Ian says Ja played less than 40% of the defensive snaps in the last 4 years. I feel like every time we talk about it, the number goes down. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, was he really out that much? I guess he was. So, and I know there's people that are like, oh, that's crazy to think that the cornerback room got better. I'm telling you, man, the guy wasn't on the field. And anybody who thinks that Ja played just flawless, he was the perfect football player, go back and watch week 1 against Philly. And I think you're going to be like, oh, yeah. Boy. Even the interception, I guarantee you got a negative grade on. The interception, he was supposed to be in a spot drop zone, and he just breaks completely off of his zone and goes to the back of the end zone and picks the ball off. And you think, oh, great instincts, great this. I'm telling you right now, if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw that football, and then if he pump fakes to the back of the end zone and throws underneath to where Ja was supposed to be, it was 6. And the coaches aren't going to look at that and go, Ja, do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. That great play. That's not how they look at that. So I just don't think he was as flawless as people say he was. However, there's no doubt he was the best corner on our team. I believe that when he's on the field. Problem is he ain't been on the field. And then Ed Madden says, Nixon's pretty solid but not spectacular. I think he has improved every year. I agree with that. I think Nixon has gotten better every year.
Do you think that he needs, like, our corners need to be playing every rep of every game, or do you think that they could be on a rotation as well? Like our 3 outside corners between Hobbs, Valentine or Nixon rotating, or it's, Hobbs and Bullard rotating?
Amelia, I was just going to ask almost the same question, but did we just learn unintentionally that Hafley / the defensive unit, their goal going in to be get guys into their positions early and keep them there for a prolonged amount of time, and don't switch them up, and let's see what we got after 4, 5, 6 weeks. And if you have to adjust then do that, make small adjustments with this whole musical chairs thing in the secondary. I get certain benefits of it on paper, but logically you can see that it doesn't seem to correlate with good numbers.
Right.
Good point. I don't think they were trying to rotate guys around last year. I know y'all wasn't saying that either, but I think it was just those injuries. You know, they kept popping up, and you'd have to. And that was the frustration with Ja was the beat reporters made it very clear that the coach's frustration, and you could hear it. Matt LaFleur, like at one point, said, "I'm done talking about it, guys." Like they were frustrated because their staff felt like he could play, and Ja would go out there and couldn't play. So it's like there was a little disconnect there that they felt like Ja was healthy enough to play. And then I heard Chewy talking about this on Jen gave it Chewy on Milwaukee, ESPN Milwaukee. He's like, you there's a difference between, this is an old program quote. If you guys have never seen the movie The Program, they said when the freshman running back gets hurt and fumbles or whatever, he goes, "Are you injured or are you hurt?" And he said, What's that mean? And he said, "Well, if you're injured, you can't play. If you're hurt, you could still play." And he went, "I think I'm just hurt." And he's like, "All right, let's go, get up." Like that's a real thing in the NFL. And what Chewy said was, him refusing to play, and he was 93% healthy. He said, "That's the NFL. You've got to be able to play when you're banged up." He said, "Newsflash, nobody's fully healthy."
Right.
So if he's only willing to go out there when he's fully healthy, that's tough luck, man.
Got it out for A-Fam there, Jacob.
I was hoping that was why.
A-Fam said that I never mind. I'm not even going to.
Don't feed the trolls, Emilio.
I said it once in my head, and it wasn't going to come out right. So we'll go ahead and keep on moving.
Better guy than I am.
And I see Solder's hot tub comment. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I will say this, and this is a little controversial. It does blow my mind how, I don't want to say this.
Oh, now they're both going to stop saying what they're going to say.
Yeah. You know what?
It does blow my mind how vocal ex-players are about people getting in trouble, getting suspended, this and that. When you go back and look at them and you go, "Bub, you were accused of doing a lot worse. What are we even talking about? I believe I just showed." That'd be like me going to a college university, to a scholar, and telling them, "Let me show you how the English language works." You know what I mean? It's not a good idea for old Clay.
Let me learn you real quick, sir.
Let me learn you what you guys are missing here. So anyway, I did not have this in the show notes to talk wide receiver depth and slot defender for the first hour of the show, but this was a good conversation, man. This was fun. I'm glad we brought it up. Anything else you guys want to add to that before we wrap up hour one?
Not really, other than the fact that, again, I will go on record saying that if I was in charge of the defense of the Packers, which thankfully will never happen, I would totally want to focus on the fact that I want to find my guy's position, and then I want him to stick there for as long as possible. And I also want to not let progress stoppers get in the way of maybe a Micah Robinson, a Kalen King, even a Jonathan Baldwin, a Greg Jr. If they're the best, put them out there. I don't care if we just paid Nate Hobbs. I don't care if Keyshawn's got an ego. I want the best rotation out there, period.
Could not agree more. Unfortunately, Jacob, you and I do not think the same way as coaches. Maybe it's fortunate. As coaches and GMs, they want their high prospects out there, right? Yeah. Their high round picks, and they want the guys that they spent money on to be on the field. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's just like we refuse to believe that they're not the best out there. I think it's they're trying to pull that potential out of those players that they obviously seen, or else they wouldn't have paid them big money. They wouldn't have drafted them high, that type of thing. So I don't think it's as much ego. It's probably some ego, but I don't think it's as much ego as it is. We know what their potential is. And we sit here and talk about progress stoppers all the time, and that's the reality of the situation. If you put those guys out there that you think are better than this person who could potentially be even better on down the road, then you are by definition stopping that progress, So I think it's just a fine line you got to kind of walk. But I'm with you, man. Like I don't give a rat's ass where they were drafted, who they play. They could play for Podunk University. If that's a better player on that day, put them out there. I'll tell you a good example, and then we'll get to hour two. If you go back and watch America's game, it was the 67 year, right, where the Ice Bowl. Chuck Mersine, they brought in Chuck Mersine from Yale, and he not just for that game, but they signed him like a good portion through the season. They get into the Ice Bowl. And Lombardi told Chuck Mersine, hey, this is the reason I brought you here. And Chuck Mersine was just dominant in that game. He was tough as nails, right? And he's the one in the famous picture of him holding his hands up, and they think he's signaling a touchdown, but he's actually signaling he wasn't pushing Bart Starr in the end zone. The very next game, the Super Bowl, because that was basically the NFL championship, and then they went on to the AFL NFL championship game against, I can't remember who they played. I think it was the Chiefs, maybe. But whoever it was they played, they benched him the next game. He came off the game of his career in the Ice Bowl, right? After the Giants kind of cut bait and left him out to dry. And then all of a sudden Lombardi goes, you know what? This is the guy better for this specific game and this game plan. That's a perfect example of, hey, I don't care who it is. Whoever gives us the best shot to win the game, let's get them on the field. So now, granted, that was a long time ago. Things have changed too, right? That was what? I don't even know how many years ago that was now, 1967. How old were you in 67, Emilio?
Mm-hmm. Yep.